Hi everybody. I'm going to try not to ASMR you too bad this time. I know I did that last time. But we finished talking about the split brain, and we watched these videos here. And now I think you've just watched, if everything's right with your sub, this video of the brain. I hope it was illuminating to you. I hope it wasn't too gross. I didn't want it to be gross, but you got to see kind of this consistency of the brain, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to start talking about evolution, and this is again part of the genetics that we've been talking about, and we're going to talk about evolutionary psychology. And basically the idea of evolutionary psychology is that evolution has shaped our psychology because things that produce adaptive behavior, things that produce behavior that is good for the species and for the person, will be favored. Genetic variation, so for instance, if you have a genetic variation that favors cooperation, you'll probably survive. If you're a lone wolf, at least as far as you think about in like our cavemen, then they certainly would have died off because they couldn't have survived alone. So let's look at a question like this. Why do we like sweets and fats and dislike bitter foods? Think about that for a minute. In fact, take a few seconds and talk to your table partner right now about why you think that might be. Go ahead, take 30 seconds, go. All right, you may not be done yet, but let's talk about it. A good answer would be that sweets and fats tell us we're going to be able to get calories, we're going to be able to get energy, and bitter foods tend to be poisonous. They tend to be not as good for us in general. In fact, that's why they're bitter. We shouldn't eat them. And why do we sleep at night and not during the day? Think about that. And again, it's basically, it's not saying that we have been created this way. It's saying that people who like sweets and fats tend to live longer because they have meat on their bones, and people who like bitter foods probably died by eating poison. Why would people who sleep at night be more likely to survive than people who sleep during the day? That's an interesting question. I mean, one of the theories is we sleep at night because it keeps us away from predators. We don't see very well at night, and predators do. Cats who might eat us, like tigers, can see better than us at night. So if we sleep at night, we are staying inside, we are staying out of harm's way. That's one theory. And then people who would sleep during the day and then would be out at night would probably be eaten by tigers. So the idea is that those things that are useful for us, help us survive, carry on, and those that don't, those people who would sleep during the day and go out during the night, they die and they don't procreate. Why do men like shapely women? And I'm not trying to be gross, but why do men like women with larger hips, maybe larger breasts? What is the theory, evolutionary psychology, for that? And if you think about that, men who like women with larger hips and larger breasts are more likely, if they have a child with that woman, they're more likely to have a child who not only will be born because she has larger hips, so she is less likely to die in childbirth and more likely to have a child, and she is more likely to be able to feed the child, to breastfeed the child. So men who like women who look like that tend to have babies that live. Men who like women who weren't like that, at least throughout most of human history, would be less likely to have babies who survive. So therefore, the people, our ancestors who liked shapely women, survived. Were more likely to survive. Why do women like strong men? And what you start to see in this too is you start to see that maybe we're confirming a lot of gender stereotypes, and we don't live in this time anymore, so men don't need to like shapely women. I completely agree with all of that. The idea is simply, though, over the course of tens of thousands of years of human history, it makes sense that those things would survive because they were adaptive for us. They allowed us to survive. And that is evolutionary psychology. It looks at how did our brain develop with adaptations, things that allowed us to survive. So I mean, and you'll even say, you've heard, and I'm sure some of you have heard the idea that men are promiscuous. They like to go out and be with many women because they can spread their genetic seed far and wide. So they will have children, be more likely to have children if they have sex with a lot of women, whereas the theory is that women can only have one child per year-ish, so therefore they are much more interested in not having a lot of sex. They're more interested in having one baby and taking care of that because they are much more invested in that. Again, that's the theory of evolutionary psychology. So the idea is that we would that those traits that are adaptive, those traits that help us survive, make us have more children, and therefore that's why we are where we are today. There's a video about evolutionary psychology that I'd like your sub to show. Click on the link now, and we'll come back after this video.